Hello. I'm truly grateful you're here. Chosen one. You may not have planned to hear this message today. Maybe it found you by accident, or maybe not. Maybe something deep inside you has been quietly searching, not for more information, but for a kind of peace nothing else has been able to give. A stillness, a sense of being known. Beneath all the roles you carry and the strength you've mastered so well, perhaps there's a quiet ache, not because something tragic happened, but because something sacred feels missing. A weariness that no amount of sleep can mend. A soul-deep exhaustion that comes from wandering too long without a place to truly rest. Sometimes it doesn't arrive as a crisis. Sometimes it shows up as a quiet, persistent dissonance, the feeling that you don't quite belong, that even in familiar places among people who know your name, something still feels out of rhythm. Like your soul is standing in a room it was never meant to settle in. You keep moving forward, doing what's required, functioning as expected, but underneath it all there's a whisper. This isn't it. This isn't home. And that whisper, gentle though it may be, carries power, because it's not a sign of failure. It's the first echo of calling. You may not have known it until now, but you've been hearing the voice of the shepherd, not in thunder or spectacle, but in that inner knowing something eternal has been watching you, waiting for you, guiding you, because you are the chosen one. If that's you, if you've ever felt like you don't quite fit, like your soul moves to a rhythm the world can't seem to hear, I want you to know you're not broken. You're not late. You're not making it up. You are being led. And the path you're on may not resemble anyone else's. It may be quiet, hidden, misunderstood. But it is not random. It is sacred. There's a reason you feel different. There's a reason you've always sensed there's something more. And that reason isn't a flaw to fix. It's a calling to embrace. Because you, chosen one, were never meant to blend in. You were born to follow a voice only you could hear. Today, we're going to walk together through Psalm 23, not as a religious formality, but as a divine roadmap for the soul that has been chosen. Not chosen because you were the strongest or the loudest or the most visible, but because God saw you before you even knew how to look for him. This psalm is not just comfort for the weary. It is a blueprint for those who have been set apart in silence, refined in isolation, and prepared for something they don't yet fully understand. If you've ever felt like you were born for more but didn't know how to explain it, this is for you. So take a breath. You don't need to strive. You don't need to fix yourself. This is not a message that demands performance. It is a gentle invitation to remember who you are, and more importantly, who your shepherd has always been. Let these words become your atmosphere. Let them open something within you. Let them remind you that you have never truly been lost. You have only been hidden. And now, perhaps now, it's time to come out of hiding and begin to walk home. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. There's a moment when the soul finally exhales, not because life has become easier, but because something deeper has become clear. That moment often begins here, with just a few simple words. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Not a theory, not a metaphor, a truth that holds you when everything else slips away. For most of us, we've been taught to lead ourselves, to figure it out, to make a plan, build a future, stay ahead of the pain. We've worn self-sufficiency like armor. We've called it strength, but deep down we've felt the exhaustion of that weight. We've known the panic of trying to be our own rescue, and eventually something in us breaks not into chaos, but into surrender. We begin to realize that what we've needed all along wasn't more control, but more trust. Not a map, a shepherd. To say, the Lord is my shepherd, is to say, I don't have to lead myself anymore. I don't have to know every answer, predict every outcome, or carry every burden. I don't have to hold the entire world together with my bare hands, because someone else is holding me, someone who knows where I'm going, someone who has walked the path before me, someone who is not in a rush but never late. A shepherd, and not just any shepherd, the Lord. the one who sees beyond time, the one who knows what I need before I can name it, the one who never loses track of the ones he loves. That's who is guiding me. And if that's true, if the Lord is my shepherd, then I shall not want is not a desperate wish. It's a settled reality. I may not have everything the world tells me I should. I may not be able to predict tomorrow, but I lack nothing. Not because I hold everything, but because I walk with the one who does. That kind of trust doesn't always come easily, especially when you've been taught to survive on your own, especially when the voices in your past only loved you when you succeeded, obeyed, or proved your worth. But the voice of the shepherd is different. He doesn't drive you with fear. He leads you with love. He doesn't demand perfection to stay close. He chose you long before you knew how to behave. And his leadership is not oppressive. It's intimate. It's consistent. It's safe. To declare I shall not want doesn't mean you'll never feel longing. It means your soul has finally found its source. And in that source, there is no fear of scarcity, no panic about the future, no shame about your needs. There is only the quiet confidence that you are held, that you are seen, that your shepherd knows the terrain, even when you do not. So if your heart still feels restless, if you're still bracing for the next letdown, the next silence, the next season of uncertainty, let these words find you again. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. You are not alone in this wilderness. You are not forgotten in this silence. You are being led even now, not by pressure but by presence, not by your own effort but by the steady hand of the one who knows your name. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Rest doesn't come naturally to a soul that's been trained by survival. When you've spent years performing, adapting, reading every room to stay safe, stillness feels foreign. Green pastures might sound beautiful in poetry, but in reality they feel suspicious to the heart that's only known striving. Still waters may be peaceful, but to someone who's always braced for disruption, they feel almost threatening, as if rest is a trap and stillness is weakness. But the shepherd knows better. He knows what your soul needs before you do. And so he does something that might surprise you. He makes you lie down. Not gently invites, not suggests. He makes you, because he sees what you've been carrying. He sees how deeply you've worn yourself thin, trying to hold it all together. He sees the hidden exhaustion beneath the strength, the inner chaos beneath the smile. And in his mercy, not his frustration, he intervenes. Not with force, but with authority. He interrupts your momentum, your inner scrambling, your mental rehearsals of worst-case scenarios. And he says, enough. Come here. Lie down. Green pastures aren't just for leisure. They're for restoration. The chosen one is not called to hustle endlessly to burn out in the name of purpose. You are not a machine. You are not a tool. You are a soul. And your shepherd knows that before you walk through valleys, before you face enemies, before you carry oil and overflow, you must first remember how to be still, how to breathe again, how to be cared for. And so he leads you not with shame, not with guilt, but with presence to still waters. Stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means something sacred is. The noise is quieting. The water is mirroring. Your reflection returns. And in that stillness something shifts. You remember who you are, not because of what you're doing, but because of who you're with. Still waters are not stagnant. They are intentional. They are environments for clarity, where the whispers of the shepherd can finally be heard again, not as commands, but as reminders. You are safe. You are not falling behind. You are loved, even in rest, especially in rest. C.S. Lewis once wrote, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. But here beside still waters, the shouting ceases, and something deeper begins invitation. An invitation to let go, to slow down, to stop proving and start receiving, to exchange your fear of delay for the truth that God is never late. So if you find yourself in a season where everything feels paused, where the doors haven't opened, where the momentum has stopped, maybe it's not punishment. Maybe it's green pasture. Maybe it's still water. Maybe, just maybe, it's the shepherd saying, "Before I take you further, I want to heal what's been strained inside you. I want you to lie down not because you're weak, but because you're loved. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake." There is a kind of tired that doesn't show on your face. It doesn't come with dark circles or yawns. It's quieter than that, deeper. It's the fatigue of the soul, the kind you carry silently because you've learned to function with it. You wake up with it. You pray through it. You smile past it. But the heaviness remains. The disappointment you never got to name. The hope deferred, the silent grief, the weight of unanswered prayers. It sits beneath the surface, unspoken but very real. And most people don't see it. But the shepherd does. And he doesn't just observe it, he moves toward it. He restores my soul, not repairs it, not patches it, not hides it. He restores it. That means he reaches for what has been lost, what has been broken, dulled, dimmed, or buried under the pressure to survive. Restoration is not cosmetic. It is sacred. It is the slow, holy work of gathering the fragments you thought were gone forever. Your wonder, your courage, your joy, your softness, and breathing life into them again. You didn't even know they could return. But he did, and he never stopped keeping track of them. You see, healing is what God does when something is wounded, but restoration, that's what he does when something is missing. And many of us, we've been missing ourselves. Missing the parts we left behind in hard seasons, in painful relationships, in years of hiding. We've adapted so well that we forgot what it felt like to be whole. But the shepherd remembers. He knows the original blueprint. He knows what the world tried to bury. And when the time is right, not when you've earned it, but when your soul is ready to receive it, he begins the work no one else can do. Restores. But restoration is not the final step. After he restores, he leads. Because the shepherd never heals just to leave you standing still. He brings you back to yourself so he can guide you forward, not in circles of confusion, but on paths of righteousness. And that word righteousness doesn't mean perfection. It means alignment. It means you begin to walk in step with your true identity again. You begin to live from wholeness, not from wounds. You begin to follow from rest, not from panic. And he does it not just for your success, not even for your comfort, but for his name's sake. Because your life is not just your story, it's evidence. It's a testimony that he still leads, he still heals, he still restores. Your journey becomes a living picture of a faithful God, not because it's flawless, but because he's present in every step. So if you've forgotten who you are, if you've lost your voice in the noise, if you've been walking but feel like something inside you has stopped moving, know this, it's not over. The shepherd is not finished with you. He is not impatient with your healing. He is restoring your soul gently, thoroughly, and in ways you won't always see at first. But as you follow him step by step, you'll begin to notice the weight is lighter, the breath is deeper, the light is returning, and you are walking again. Not alone, not broken, but whole and held and led for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. There are valleys that leave no visible scars, but mark the soul forever. Not every pain shouts. Some just settle into the background of your life like a heavy fog, a quiet ache you carry through the motions. There are days when your spirit feels dim, when joy is distant, when even prayer feels hollow. The valley of the shadow of death is not always about literal danger. Sometimes it's the season where everything familiar unravels, where the path disappears beneath your feet, and even light feels out of reach. But here's what's sacred about that valley. You walk through it. You don't die in it. You don't live in it. You pass through, and you don't do it alone. The shepherd walks with you, not above, not ahead, not calling from a distance, but with you, step for trembling step. That's why the psalm doesn't say, I will not walk through the valley. It says, even though I walk through it, I will fear no evil. Not because the valley isn't real, but because he is. Fear thrives in isolation. It gains power when you believe you've been left behind, when you assume silence means abandonment. But the shepherd is not absent in the valley. In fact, it's often where his presence becomes clearest, not in bright lights or booming answers, but in the steady assurance that somehow you're still breathing, still standing, still held. There were nights you thought you wouldn't make it through, but you did, not because you had the strength, but because he never let go. Sometimes the shepherd doesn't change the landscape. He changes the atmosphere within you. Fear no longer defines the valley, because peace has entered it. Not a shallow, passive peace, but one born from companionship, a knowing that you are not alone, even here, even now, and that knowing changes everything. It doesn't erase the grief, but it holds it. It doesn't explain the silence, but it sits with you in it. And in that witness, something sacred begins. Fear begins to lose its grip. C.S. Lewis once wrote, pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. And maybe this is the valley where you hear him not in words but in presence, not in answers but in endurance, not in resolution but in companionship that will not leave you behind. So, if you're walking through a valley right now, emotional, spiritual, relational, let this be your reminder. The shepherd is still here. You may not feel him the way you want to. You may not understand why the road has twisted the way it has. But presence, not explanation, is your promise. And presence is enough. You will not stay in this place forever. You are passing through, and you are not doing it alone. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Comfort is a strange thing when you've lived most of your life on edge, when you've been taught to brace for impact, to expect disappointment, to prepare for loss. Comfort doesn't always feel comforting. It feels unfamiliar, suspicious, like something you have to earn, or something that will be taken away the moment you relax. But the shepherd offers a different kind of comfort, not one based on circumstances, but on presence paired with power. He doesn't just sit beside you quietly. He brings tools, a rod, a staff, instruments of both authority and gentleness, protection and guidance, correction and assurance. The rod is not a weapon of harm, but of defense. It is what the shepherd uses to beat back the predators that move in silence, the thoughts that accuse you, the lies that torment you, the memories that rise like shadows to swallow your peace. You may not always see what he's fighting off, but make no mistake, he is guarding you, not just externally, but internally. He is defending your spirit from the silent warfare that others cannot see. And the staff, the shepherd's staff, is his extension of nearness. It's what he uses to pull you back from danger, to draw you close when you drift, to steady you when your steps begin to wobble. If you've ever felt a sudden pause in your plans, a holy disruption in your momentum, a moment where you were caught just before falling, that was his staff. You may have thought it was delay or even discipline, but it was mercy. It was love. It was the shepherd refusing to let you walk too far into something your soul couldn't survive. What brings comfort to the chosen one is not the absence of hardship, it's the awareness of being shepherded, to be cared for by someone who doesn't just feel your pain, but has the strength to respond to it. Someone who doesn't just observe your weakness, but leans in with compassion and authority. Someone who doesn't flinch at your fear, your mistakes, your mess, but reaches for you anyway. C.S. Lewis once said, "We are not necessarily doubting that God will do the best for us. We are wondering how painful the best will turn out to be." And isn't that true? So many of us trust God in theory, but quietly brace ourselves for what that trust might cost. We fear his correction. We assume his guidance will hurt. But the chosen one learns over time that God's discipline is never about shame. It's about keeping you whole. It's not punishment, it's protection. It's not rejection, it's realignment. So, if you've felt the tap of the shepherd's staff lately, in your relationships, in your decisions, in the unexpected closed doors, don't resist it. Don't resent it. Let it comfort you. It's proof that you're not walking this road alone, that someone sees the things you cannot, that someone is close enough to reach you, strong enough to guide you, and tender enough to care how you feel along the way. The shepherd's rod and staff are not symbols of fear. They are reminders that you are guarded and guided. You are not left to figure this out alone. You are not expected to stay upright by your own wisdom. There is a hand on your story. There is a grip on your path. And even in the valley, even in the silence, you are being held steady by the one who knows exactly where he's leading you. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. There is something profoundly personal about a table. It's not a stage. It's not a battlefield. It's not a pulpit. A table is where people sit, where they eat, where they are nourished, known, and seen. And that is where the shepherd brings you, not just into a safe place, but into a seat of honor. But what makes this moment sacred isn't just the table itself. It's where it's placed right in front of your enemies. For so long, you've been trying to escape the voices that doubted you, the memories that haunted you, the systems that underestimated you, the battles that wore you thin. You thought breakthrough would mean leaving it all behind, disappearing into peace, into anonymity, into some distant meadow untouched by pain. But the shepherd has a different kind of redemption in mind. He doesn't pull you out of the fight to feed you. He feeds you in front of the fight, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. To make a statement that cannot be missed. This one belongs to me. You don't need to defend yourself anymore. You don't need to explain how hard it's been. You don't need to prove how much you've grown. The shepherd knows, and he sets the table not as a reward for perfection, but as an acknowledgement of endurance. You made it through. You walked when you wanted to collapse. You trusted when you couldn't see. You stayed when everything in you wanted to run. And now, in full view of what tried to break you, the shepherd seats you. But this table is not for revenge. It is not a moment of arrogant vindication. It is a moment of sacred validation, not for others, for you. A reminder that you are no longer surviving, you are receiving. That what once chased you no longer defines you. That the voices that tried to name you are now silenced by the voice that calls you beloved. And the feast you receive is not just physical, it is spiritual. It nourishes the part of you that feared you would always be overlooked, always be unseen, always be behind. This table says otherwise. It says you are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not alone. Sit, eat, be filled. C.S. Lewis once said, "Courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point." That is the kind of courage you've lived. The kind that isn't loud but lasting. The kind that keeps walking through the shadow, that keeps believing in the dark, that stays when it hurts. And now God honors that. Not with spectacle, with sustenance, with a table where fear is no longer seated. Only you and Him. So don't rush this moment. Don't doubt your place at the table. You didn't earn it, but you were always meant for it. The one who prepared it didn't make a mistake when He set it in front of your enemies. He knew exactly what He was doing. He wanted them to see, not to humiliate them, but to liberate you, to show you that you are no longer in hiding. You are home. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. This is not ordinary oil. And you are not an ordinary vessel. The shepherd doesn't just feed you. He marks you. After the valley, after the silence, after the table prepared in front of everything that tried to destroy you, comes the anointing. Quiet, holy, irreversible. Not a ceremony for show, but a consecration for purpose. He anoints your head, not because you arrived flawless, but because you arrived faithful. Not because you earned a crown, but because you survived the crushing. And now heaven responds not just with comfort, but with commissioning. In the ancient world, oil was poured over prophets, priests, and kings, not to make them perfect, but to recognize that they had been set apart for something bigger than themselves. That's what this oil means. It means you've been entrusted with weight, with calling, with grace formed in fire. Your pain was not wasted. Your story was not a detour. It was preparation for this moment. The moment where God says, "Now I pour. Now I empower. Now I trust you to carry what crushed you, not as a wound, but as a witness." And the oil doesn't just touch your forehead. It flows freely, lavishly, without apology, because your life is not meant to be half-filled or barely sustained. You were made to overflow, not for ego, for impact, for mercy, for mission. Your cup is not running over because everything is perfect, but because you're being filled with something eternal, something the world didn't give you, and the world can't take away. Overflow means that others will be blessed just by being near you. It means the healing you received is now healing through you. It means that the same comfort that held you in your darkest night is now being multiplied into every room you walk into. You are not just a survivor. You are now a carrier of presence, of power, of peace. And the oil tells the world, this one has been with the shepherd. This one has seen the valley and didn't leave. This one was broken and now breathes with glory. C.S. Lewis once said, God will make the feeblest and filthiest of us into a god or goddess, dazzling, radiant, immortal, the load or weight or burden of glory which your neighbor is carrying. That's what you carry now. Not visible crowns, but invisible fire. Not a stage, but a stillness that speaks louder than noise. You walk differently now. You speak from a place deeper than knowledge. You forgive from a well that doesn't run dry. Because your cup is no longer trying to be filled by people, it's being filled by presence. So receive the oil. Let it run down. Let it cleanse. Let it set you apart. Let it prepare you. Because what is ahead requires more than survival. It requires someone who knows where the overflow comes from and who it's for, and that someone is you. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There is a peace that doesn't just visit you, it follows you. There is a presence that doesn't just comfort you in crisis, it accompanies you through everything. When David wrote, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me," he wasn't expressing hope, he was declaring certainty. Not because he had mastered life, not because he avoided valleys, but because he had walked with the shepherd long enough to know this one unshakable truth: God doesn't leave those he loves. And not only does he not leave, he appoints companions to your journey, goodness and mercy. Not judgment, not shame, not punishment, but goodness, the undeserved favor of God, and mercy, the tender patience of a father who knows your every wound. These are not feelings. They are not random blessings. They are realities that pursue you relentlessly, faithfully, not just on your good days, not just when you feel strong, but all the days of your life, including the days you fall, the days you question, the days you wonder if any of this is still true. Even then, they do not turn back. They follow because they've been assigned. You see, when you walk with the shepherd, you stop being chased by fear and start being followed by mercy. The threats behind you lose their voice. The failures behind you lose their power. And in their place comes a quiet rhythm. You are not being hunted by darkness. You are being held by grace. And it doesn't end when your strength does. That's the miracle. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Isn't just poetic language. It's eternal placement. A seat that can't be revoked. A belonging that doesn't expire. This is not about visiting God's house like a guest trying to behave. This is about living there as one who has been invited, welcomed, and sealed. You are not passing through his presence. You are being rooted in it. For the chosen one, this is everything. You were never meant to live in fear or to wander without rest. You were created for belonging, not temporary inclusion, but eternal dwelling, to be at home in the presence of the one who has walked every step with you. The valleys were not detours. The pain was not punishment. The silence was not rejection. All of it, every step was leading here. To this, a life led by love, sustained by mercy, and promised forever. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. And the shepherd, the one who saw you when no one else did, who called you when you were still hidden, who held you when you could no longer walk, now brings you into that better, not just in theory, in reality, and not just for a moment, but forever. So now you know you are not alone. You never were. You are not forgotten. You never have been. The shepherd has led you all the way through green pastures, through dark valleys, through silent nights, and sacred anointing. And now you are not just walking, you are dwelling. You are not just surviving, you are home.